What's up, everyone? Do you want to implement dark mode in your project, but you're not exactly sure where to start? In this video, I'm going to introduce dark mode in Tailwind CSS and show an example of how to use it in a project. If you'd like to see the code that I use in this video, there's a link to the repo in the description. Now, let's dive in. At this point in modern web development, it's nearly essential to include a design for dark mode. Dark mode and the user preferences that go along with it is a first-class feature in most operating systems, so it's important to consider adding a dark version of your website while building your default design. Tailwind CSS makes it easy to design for dark mode as it includes a dark mode variant by default. Like most variants, the dark variant can be applied to all types of utility classes, which gives you unlimited flexibility in how you design. Let's start with the most basic example, which simply takes the user's system preference to apply dark mode designs. In our example file route, we're going to export a default function called page, and in this we're going to return a div that just contains an h1 that says this is dark mode. Now in our div, we'll give it the classes of text center, bg white, dark bg gray 900, text gray 900, and dark text white. Now when I save this, we're currently in light mode and we can see that our light mode styles are applied here. If we force our dark mode, we can see now that the div's background is the dark gray and the text is white. Without Tailwind, you would need to set the prefers color scheme CSS media feature and essentially design another section of your site and keep track of the changes to ensure consistency. With Tailwind, you simply just use the dark mode variant. If you want to use a CSS selector to determine if the user is in dark mode, you can do that easily with Tailwind. All you need to do is add a custom variant to your globals.css file. So below our theme here, we can add our custom variant, which will check dark, and then we can where dark, and then our wildcard selector there. Then it's up to you how you conditionally add the dark class to your HTML element to enable dark mode. You're also able to use a data attribute. So if you'd rather do that, you can create another custom variant, also called dark, and then check where data theme equals dark, data theme equals dark, and the wildcard selector to choose all of the children elements there as well. Again, this depends on you, how you want to conditionally render this value to show dark mode or not, but you need to set it with the data theme attribute instead of a class name. I'm going to show an example of how to do this with a CSS selector, but first, if you're finding this video helpful and would like to help facilitate the growth of this channel, make sure you're subscribed to my channel and like the video so more people can discover this content. Thank you for your support. Now for a full example. I'm going to add a way for us to check a user's system preference and return the proper design for that preference. Beyond that, I want a way for the user to select the theme they prefer and allow them to clear that selection. First, we'll comment out the data theme custom variant we created in our globals.css and take the CSS class selector example that we set up here. Now, in our Tailwind examples folder, we're going to add a new directory called components. And in this folder, we're going to create a new TypeScript file called ThemeSelection and have it be a TSX file. We know this is going to be a client component, so we can add the useClient directive at the top of the file. We'll also need to import React, useEffect, and useState from React. We'll also import a few icons we know we're going to use from Lucid Icons. So we'll import our light bulb and light bulb off from Lucid React, as well as an X icon. Now we can export a constant called ThemeSelection and set it equal to an arrow function. For our props, we're going to include children, which will have the type of React node. The first thing we need to do is check if a theme value exists or what the user's preferences are. And we can do that by storing those preferences in our constant called initial state, which will be set equal to an arrow function. Here we'll check type of window does not equal undefined. And if that's true, we'll take our constant called stored theme and set equal to local storage get item theme. If there is a stored theme, we can return stored theme equal to dark to return true or false depending on the value of stored theme. Below that, we can return our window dot matchMedia prefers color scheme dark dot matches, which will check if the user prefers color scheme dark and will return true if it's true or false if it's not true. And below all of that, we can return a false value. Now we can create our useState that will handle if we're in dark mode. So this will get and set our dark mode, which will have a type of Boolean, and this will have the initial value of initial state. We can then apply the theme and store it in local storage by using a useEffect hook. And we'll set a constant called media query set equal to window.matchMedia prefers color scheme dark without the matches here. And then we can handle our change in a constant called handle change set equal to an event, which has the type of media query list event. And in this change, we can get local storage and remove the theme item from it and set is dark mode to event.matches. So this will return true or false. Below that then we can take our media query and we can add an event listener called change, which will pass in the function handle change and then return an arrow function that removes that change event listener from our media query constant. Now we need to update the DOM and local storage when is dark mode changes. We do that again with a useEffect hook that takes is dark mode as dependency, and we'll use this to toggle our dark class with is dark mode being the force here. What this is doing is it's targeting the base element of our environment, which in our case is HTML, and toggling on and off our dark class name. The second option here in the toggle is called a force. This means that if it's included, it turns the toggle into a one-way only operation. If is dark mode is set to false, then the dark class name will only be removed, but not added. If is dark mode is true, then the dark class will only be added, but not removed. We then will want a way to set our theme based on if we are in dark mode. If we are, we'll return dark. If we're not, we'll return light. Now we can create a click handler called toggle dark mode, which will set is dark mode to the opposite of the current value. We'll also want a way to remove dark mode, so we can remove theme by removing the theme item from local storage and then storing our system preferences in a constant called system prefers dark. Set that equal to window matchMedia prefers color scheme dark dot matches, and then we can return that value as set is dark mode's new state. Now we can return our component, which will be a main element, which will have a class name of dark bg violet 950, and in this main we'll have a div which will have a class name of flex items center justify center gap 4 padding top and bottom of 4. And this div is going to contain all of our icons. So we'll have light bulb off, light bulb, and our X icon. The light bulb off and light bulb icons will have an on-click attribute that will toggle dark mode, and the X icon will have on-click of remove theme. We'll have a class name for our light bulb off, which will be dark stroke yellow 100, and then the X will also have a class name of dark stroke violet 50. We'll then want to conditionally render our light bulb icon depending on if it's in dark mode or not. So if it is dark mode, our light bulb off will show. If not, our regular light bulb icon will show. Then below our div, we can pass in our children node there. Of course, stopping here will do nothing for us. We need to wrap this around all the content that we want to use. We can do this by creating a layout.tsx file in our Tailwind examples. So I will create a new file called layout.tsx. And in this file, we're going to import our theme selection from the component folder that we just created. And then we're also going to import React from React. Now we can export our default function called layout, which will take our children with the type of React node. And then we can return our theme selection and have that wrap around our children element here. Now we can spin up our development server. We can see that we have a set of 2 icons and some text that says this is dark mode. We can force our color change here in the developer tools. We can clear our theme and toggle dark mode on and off. And since I am currently in light mode, if I do this, I can clear my dark mode to give way to light mode. There are limitless ways to implement dark mode in your project. Hopefully this video gives you a couple of ideas for how you can design for all types of user preferences, including light and dark mode. If you found this video helpful, please like it and share it with others who might also find it useful. Check to make sure you're subscribed to my channel and receiving notifications so you never miss when I release more content around Tailwind CSS, Payload CMS, nextjs, and more. If you have suggestions or questions, please leave those in the comments. I'd love to hear from you. Until then, I'll see you on the next one.